most of the food that they make available to the public is not grown locally. And unfortunately, that's even true here in the co-op. And I think that the co-op, as a community-based store, has an opportunity and maybe even a responsibility to take a leadership role in this community. And one of the ways that it can distinguish itself from the other grocery stores in town is by promoting the local food chain, supporting local growers, featuring local food above all. You know, we're pretty vulnerable in Boulder County in terms of our food supply. Right now we only have the ability to feed about 20,000 people from local growers. You know, we need to increase that considerably, and the only way that we can do that is, well, two ways: by supporting local growers and increasing the amount of farmland that's being used for food, and by encouraging more and more people to grow some of their own food. I'd love to walk in this store down the produce section and be able to see where each kind of produce has come from. I'd like to be able to see which farm it came from. Right now we can't do that even here, but if the co-op decided to take that on to be the store that features local food and promotes local growers, I think that would be really exciting.
So a couple points. Last night I was reading nytimes.com, the New York Times website, and they were saying the vegan and vegetarian markets were doubling in size every year. That's also true for the organic food industry. So I think there is a lot of hope. Even if we were to stay vegetarian, you know, we're in the right place at the right time. It's really a question of somehow dealing with our debt, and you know, we're swimming against the kind of capitalist stream here, trying to do something very different. So I want to talk, is there hope? The co-op is in a lot of debt, I believe. I won't go into that specifically because I don't know if that's public, but it is in a very tough situation, and even if it succeeds day to day with support from all these community members who are coming in, who are actually owners of the co-op, to shop or get their organic lunch at the award-winning Cafe Prasad, we still have this huge burden of debt. So how do we reverse that? Rudy, you're a turnaround specialist. You've worked in the food industry. You've had, I hear, a 100% success rate. So let's keep that at 100%. So how would you do that?
Every year that number gets harder to achieve. Two things to me provide great hope. One is the food business as a whole, just the root of food, what it provides. The cafe and the part of the business that the co-op creates from the restaurant itself, from the cafe. The root of the word restaurateur literally means restorer of soul. Not a place you go to eat, restorer of soul. So to me, the co-op and the cafe both have this very amazing community outreach and connection to not only do more, you're already there in terms of attitude and reason of purpose. The other piece that I think is a unique opportunity for the co-op is that what's missing here is discipline, and that discipline is not unique to other businesses any more than it is to this co-op. So what we can put in place, and actually are already in the process of doing, is putting discipline into the management systems, into the fiscal systems, into the choicefulness of the operation. No different than a yoga practice, a breathing practice, a meditation practice, outreach to a community, exercise. So there's discipline, and that discipline and the heart, the purpose, are not mutually exclusive. They actually integrate beautifully. So frankly, I have huge amounts of optimism. This action is very much about choicefulness, which is also part of practice.
Yeah, with Elephant, we call it the mindful life, so you're making very deliberate choices. And I wanted to touch briefly on the local thing. Again, I think you're coming a little bit, you have such a depth of understanding about why local is important, but very simply, why, environmentally speaking, you're not trucking stuff around, etc. Why is it important? Just very...
Well, right now, on average, the food that's on our plate travels about 1,500 miles to get to us. And in
Why is that bad? Why does that matter?
well, because there is so much fossil fuel consumption that's involved in food production, in fertilizers, food transport, food processing, food packaging. It is really very, very unsustainable. And as we approach these global crises that we're all aware of peak oil, of climate change, economic chaos, the price of fossil fuels is going to increase very dramatically, which will leave us very vulnerable locally. So we will need to be more dependent upon locally produced food rather than food, you know, the 3,000-mile Caesar salad that James Howard Kunstler talks about. It's a big change. It's not going to happen overnight, but we need to begin that now. And I think that this is something that the co-op can and should lead the way in.
Has the co-op, and I'm sure you have, I know the farmers market here is one of the most popular in America, as is, interestingly, Whole Foods has one of their most popular, I think second most popular in the nation, behind one in Manhattan, which also sells liquor. So obviously this is a natural food kind of town. This town has founded Silk Soy and a dozen other prominent natural food companies, Celestial Seasonings. And the farmers market is one of the most popular in the nation here. They don't have a winter home, and they're always trying to get the city to build them one, or I don't quite know the details. Why couldn't the co-op serve like that as a house for local food in the wintertime?
Absolutely.
For maybe
Sure.
At least I can bring up to date some of the things we've tried to do and looked at. First of all, I'd say right now you can get 79 cents a pound organic Colorado apples right there in the produce department, only place in town. But it's probably one of the only products we have. We have several products, some local jams and apple sauces, but that, you know, we started somewhere. We're very interested in trying to house as a community share or a CSA. People contract with farms and get a share of their. We'd love to do it here. We have the cooler space. We have a garage out of the alley.
What's the CSA?
You want to define a CSA? It's a community share agriculture.
Yeah, it's community-supported agriculture, where community members essentially subscribe to a farm so that they pay up front for the food that they're going to be receiving over the growing season, and that gives the farmer the upfront capital to be able to plow, to plant, and produce.
And Waylon, in talking to some of the leading farmers in the area, I mean, there are opportunities, but it's going to take, you know, when we're coming from a place of financial health and some stability, there's a lot of opportunities. We can start to look at more winter crops that could be planted with the idea that they could be sold through here. And we could find a way that they could sell at a margin that was productive for them. So there are opportunities, but it does come from a place of, we need to come from a place of stability. That could help us reach it. It's kind of a catch-22, but it's certainly where we want to go and how we want to differentiate. Food that goes right into the kitchen and then out from the cafe. So there are opportunities. There's opportunities to raise the growing productivity, especially wintertime, and have a place to sell that. Again, it's going to take some work with the farm community and for the co-op to come from a stable place to support that.
If I could add just one piece to what's just been said, in terms of a turnaround, in terms of active growth of the co-op, there's another piece that excites me with what Eddie just said, Michael, is for the members and the staff both to be excited about guests walking in the door. Not consumers, guests, customers, partners. That there is actually this very unique environment in these four walls and in the heart of the four walls, and to take for granted that somebody's just going to amble in the door is not going to serve the co-op and is not going to serve the greater community. So one of the pieces as we talk about all of these things is how do we get actually excited about what we are offering the community in both an education, product, and experience. So.
So I think we're well over our 8 minutes, and the commercials have been playing, and no one's heard anything we've said. But another point, obviously, about local businesses that I don't remember the stats, you probably do, but something like 70 cents or something of the dollar stays in the town. It's good for the local economy. With a business like Whole Foods and Wild Oats, which are wonderful businesses that aren't local, only 40 cents or something. So it really, for your local economy, it's vital. So I want to go over to David, who does represent those guests, as I do, actually, people who come into the co-op, and why are you inspired to support the co-op with your local grocery shopping?
Well, I think it's become a really important thing for me in general to realize that there's a problem in our culture, that it's not really localized, that this is a community-based initiative in a commodity-based culture. And what I mean by that is that we're not, in the United States in general, we don't tend to have a tendency toward forming and creating community, even though we all have a desire to. We have a tendency toward forming and creating product, marketing that product, and feeding the economic system that feeds us and our families and our individual growth and whatever has to happen along those lines. And I think, first off, recognizing that we all have an individual responsibility in that to really identify what in the community is bringing us together and sustaining us, and trying to find the right, I'm going to try to put it in the most simple way, trying to find the right capital, the right money to get behind that and to support those things, to choose those things that support active community, that support sustainability and growth against a culture that is going in the opposite direction. So in terms of choosing the co-op, in terms of choosing the idea of a cooperative, working together, I think we all know from our own experience that that means sustainability, that means the perpetuation of our culture and these other things that are kind of mechanized trends in our culture, the economic system, the way we market these products is counter our growth in the long run. So as we wake up and we start to realize that more, I think we need to buy this. We need to buy into this more, and we need to find ways to go in both directions. I think I heard it sounded like there was a little bit of a contradiction between, like, should the co-op go out into the community, should the community come into the co-op, and I think it's really actively both. I think it really is.
So we're well out of time. I'm going to skip straight ahead to, if that's okay, Eddie. I'm going to skip straight ahead to the public questions. We're going to write down questions and then review them. But I think, to me, the most interesting question, and I hope to all of us, is therefore, okay, we've said sort of the state of the union of the co-op. Now, how do we get that in and out happening? How, for those of you here who, if we're not appealing to our core in Boulder, and I know so many, like myself, I'm a knee-jerk liberal with my Howard Dean cap. So many people like myself who don't, for whatever reason, support the co-op. And that's not because they're bad people or because the co-op is a bad place, but how can we make that connection happen? So looking at some of my friends, I just want to put my friend David Rogers on the spot because he's one of my best friends. He's done more progressive things than I can count on my fingers and toes. He's not vegetarian. I want to know, like, from a very personal, honest point of view, and I regard this as a favor, I don't mean to put you on the spot, what can the co-op do possibly to get your loyalty in your business?
Well, I'm very much on the spot, but well, I love the idea of the co-op, and I do come in here for lunch because I do want to support the co-op. But the experience that I have frequently is that this is one of multiple stops that I have to make. The vegetarian thing is an aspect, but when I come in here, I don't feel like the co-op is aware of what I need. And when I come in here and I get and I want to buy a dozen tomatoes, and I know tomatoes may be out of season, and I want to make tomato sauce the wrong time of year, but if I can't get those tomatoes, the next time that I'm thinking that I want to run out and do something, I'm not stopping here. And that's happened to me 3 or 4 times, and unfortunately that's the reality of why I'm hesitant to come here.
Who wrote this down? You did. Do you want to ask it yourself? Heather is an intern and a student at Naropa. She's an intern with Elephant.
I think that one of the co-op's major strengths is its community, and I think the fact that the co-op is a business that's trying to support and help the community and not just further its own financial gain, I think is amazing. But I also think that to some people who aren't familiar with the values of the co-op or who aren't familiar with the community of the co-op, that the community can actually seem sort of intimidating or exclusive. And I think thinking about ways to welcome more people who aren't the people that are here all the time, if you can think of more ways to do that, more ideas to do that.
So we are out of time. So I think those questions hopefully can spark further inspiration, and maybe we can try and address those in concrete actions instead of just words, which is all Elephant really has to offer. This was meant as a humble offering. It's obviously, we didn't get a whole lot of people on a snowy day, but this will be your average YouTube video, even ones that are really boring, gets 1,000 hits. If we can really help people in Boulder look at this, and we can hopefully inspire people to become members. It's very cheap. It's like $35 a year or something. You get a ton of discounts. You make your money back if you shop here just a few times. And I think the more that people shop here, the more community and the more all that magic will happen. And I personally have shopped here. The only time I ever go elsewhere, and I can say this quite honestly, with a few exceptions obviously, is I go to Whole Foods for the olive bar once a month because I love olives. So if we can all just stick here and get that community going, amen. And thank you for your time and your wisdom.